unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Deontay Wilder will never, ever beat Tyson Fury, according to Paulie Malignaggi. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to my channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chat channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, and the Patreon family. Yeah, we working. Now, head over to Patreon right now. Shift over there. Patreon, I'm going to start shifting some of the content over there. Also, YouTube channel members, appreciate everybody that has already went over there and subscribed. We're doing some things different. I got to put some focus on the Patreon and the channel members and, you know, give them more love and attention. So we're going to keep the conversation flowing over there. If not, you know, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for the regular videos that will be on YouTube. But there's some additional perks. Head over there. Great way to support the channel. Another way to support the channel is hit that ESPN Plus link that up. The link is in the description box of all my videos. You get ESPN Plus, the bundle that includes ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus, all three apps, $12.99 a month. And I appreciate you guys that have used that link. Again, this is a great time to catch up on some shows and docuseries and documentaries while we wait for live events. And as soon as I get the directive from Disney about UFC 249, then I'll give you guys some updates as far as how you can support the channel with that particular pay-per-view. Now, let's jump into it. Paulie Malignaggi, he had a lot to say. He was talking about Wilder versus Fury 2. And let's just jump into his quote. Wilder is a very good fighter and one of the best in the world, but I don't think he will ever beat Tyson Fury. No, Fury has his number and the number of the entire heavyweight division. I don't think anyone in the division can beat Fury right now. The only person who beats Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury himself if he loses his mind, half-asses in training, and falls off the wagon again. He's more mature now, and I don't expect that to happen. There was no bad blood from me toward Wilder until there was bad blood from him. I am nobody's cheerleader. I'm an analyst. I actually like Deontay, like most fighters. This is how we make our living. It's a short window, and I love watching guys achieve their dreams. I have a job, and whether I'm your friend or not, I have to do my job no matter if we're cool or not. I don't expect an athlete to be happy with criticism, but at the same time, my criticism is not from a perspective of trying to bring anyone down. I've been on the wrong end of bad decisions, and anytime I see one, I want to make sure I put it out there. I was disgusted with the decision from the Wilder Fury fight, end quote. So Paulie has a lot to say. Now, listen, I don't think Deontay Wilder is somebody who is thin-skinned, if you will. So I don't think that's the situation. In fact, I know people in his camp and stuff. He's a jovial, like, guy that likes to, joke and stuff like that. So I don't think it's just mere criticism. If it's a fair criticism, I think Wilder is man enough to take that. Like, someone says something, use your jab more or something, that's cool. But what Paulie Malignaggi has done is take that, and he's taken that kind of to the next level. In my opinion, since Paulie Malignaggi is talking about people using their voice for their opinion, I think Paulie Malignaggi has been very critical of certain fighters. And a lot of them have been recently black fighters and or fighters that have an abusive style. What I mean when I use the terminology abusive style, what I mean is like guys with threatening power, like real deal power, blunt, brute force, strength guys. Even if they have boxing skill. And for example, I've heard him kind of critical of, like, let's say a Charlo, Gervonta Davis, when he was fighting Gamboa, Wilder, even in the Wilder, like the Wilder Fury, they were somewhat controversial, I guess you want to say, but it's not even just that fight. So that's when it becomes something different, when it seems like you're ragging on the same person throughout countless fights. So Paulie Malignaggi is making himself sound like, oh, I'm just doing my job. I get that, because I'm also in the same business. I'm one of the people that led this digital space of boxing commentary, in the online stratosphere, So I do the same thing after the big fights and stuff. You hear me get on here, give my post-fight assessments, do a live stream, talk about boxing fights before they happen. So, I'm no stranger to giving my opinion and thoughts on boxing. Now, I'm not the professional fighter like Paulie Malignaggi once was, but I still know my thing, because real talk, I get my predictions right, and a lot of what I say on the channel, more so than people I see interviewed on Sky Sports or DAZN and, different people. And they're professionals and supposed to be in the industry, but you have inherent biases with a lot of people. Like, oh, I know this guy, I spar with this guy, do you, like, for example, Jose Cito Lopez has trained or was training with Robert Garcia, and that's Mikey Garcia's brother, right? And trainer. So when Errol Spence is about to fight Mikey Garcia, do you think Jose Cito Lopez, knowing he has a kinship and relationship with the Garcias, is he really just going to go out and say, man, Errol Spence, I don't know, he's too big, he's too good, Mikey might get hurt in there? You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of fighters who they take punches for a living, but they won't, keep it real in those regards. They'll do the interview, but they'll lean on the fence and stuff like that. So actually what I do is a bit harder because, I don't really care about, I'm not, like Paulie saying, I'm not, trying to maim and slander people and stuff. I'm just giving you my opinion, my 2 cents and things like that. So you take it for what it's worth. But I really have no personal disdain for whatever I'm saying. I've said good stuff about Canelo. I've said constructive criticism about Canelo and Wilder and everybody else in boxing. So it is what it is. I get that, but I think with Paulie Malignaggi, the difference being, he seems like you kind of make it out like you have certain things against a person when you're seemingly chastising them. Like you don't really appreciate their style. You're not saying anything good. Like, for example, Wilder in his, undefeated reign, I don't care what was happening. And this is a lot of commentators / analysts. I really feel that former fighters, analysts, and professional fighters, it's like a disgusting level of jealousy when it comes to Deontay Wilder. And you gotta, and I've already broke down the science, but this is the reality of it as I see it. I think Wilder, some people had this disdain. It's like they were waiting for him to get exposed or lose like he did to Tyson Fury or whatever, because they were almost envious that a guy can A, start boxing late, B, be in fights with top level guys like Cuban amateur standouts with 300 to 500 amateur fights, skill guys, southpaw, that other guys don't want to fight, could be, possibly losing or in deep in competitively, right? Lacking what they say, quote unquote, skill. And then he has such an eraser that he can erase the whiteboard. He can erase the chalkboard, in one fell swoop. Boom, everything. So just imagine a teacher at a dry erase board, and the teacher's putting this math formula. You get the red and green dry erase markers. The teacher's writing down all of these equations and, x divided by y, pi equals square, and all these mathematical Da Vinci codes and equations. And they take their time writing there. Wilder would be the dry erase marker. No matter what you wrote up there, no matter what equations or demonstrations that you wrote with that marker, it cannot withstand that dry erase eraser. You see what I'm saying? Because if you look at a whiteboard, I think that's a perfect analogy, and y'all better give me credit for my analogy. I told you I'm the king of analogies when it comes to this boxing talk. I think that's a perfect analogy here. No matter what you wrote, all the time and effort, you wrote neatly and, these things, and you're writing whatever, algebraic expressions, and you cross your T's and dot your I's and all this, and you take your time with it. And then a student comes up and just in one fell swoop takes that eraser and just erases everything you did. That, my friends, is Deontay Wilder. So I think that has created like almost a envy amongst certain fighters, because you have to think, like guys like Paulie Malignaggi, he's not known for his power. Paulie can box for sure. He's been in the game. He has a very good jab. He can box. But, he got blitzed by certain guys like Amir Khan. If he had Wilder power, Khan would have been out of there. Khan could not. That's his kryptonite, his chin. So there's no way Khan could have fought a guy who's dangerous like Wilder with one punch. So you got to look at the dichotomy of what I'm saying. It's almost like people have a level of jealousy or just disdain or whatever for Wilder because he's able to do what most fighters can't do in a way. You see what I'm saying? Most fighters, they can't just come from behind. In certain fights, you watch two guys and one guy's getting a butt whooped and is 8, 9 rounds, 10 rounds deep, then it's inevitable. You know what's going to happen. You're like, I know how this is going to play out, because certain guys don't have the one punch detonating power to erase everything and come back and make their way back in the fight. There are some guys that do have that, and Wilder is definitely one of them. So, I've always felt like Paulie Malignaggi, as Wilder grew in competition, not really when he was coming up, but as Wilder began to move the culture and become more popular, Paulie started getting a lot more critical. And I've seen him do this with Gervonta Davis and stuff like that. And then meanwhile, he's doing other interviews where he's saying that the black fighter is, kind of being replaced by Eastern European fighters, which is not even true. When Ward fought Kovalev from, Eastern European countries, Russia, history of violence, like the movie, Ward beat him. And then when Kovalev, it was too close for comfort, Ward rematched him and he beat him again, right? Floyd Mayweather, he fought all guys from all walks of life, all around the world, Ireland, like Conor McGregor, beat him. So who is this Eastern European that is just, we got a great fight with Teofimo and Lomachenko. Teofimo has a certain chance against Lomachenko for sure. So that could be the end of his little run, depending on when this fight happens and how it plays out. So I totally 1000% disagree with Paulie Malignaggi about this invasion and takeover. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, I'm here to keep it all the way funky. Boxing Ego, so you know who said it. HBO, why did they go out of business? The reason they went out of business is for that Paulie Malignaggi mindset. That's exactly why, and I've called it to a T before it happened. And I can expand on this in a live stream or whatever, it's good. But this is the same thought process that we've seen really from Top Rank and HBO, and it failed. It failed flat. It fell flat on its face, and that's because HBO, they would big up Dmitry Bivol and Kovalev and Lomachenko and Usyk and, Sergey Zakhanov and, Madrimov and Dream on, all these names and stuff that aren't familiarized with the American market, and say that's the best crop of fighters. And it was like they were trying to wash and rid the game of the Floyd Mayweather look or whatever, the American champion like that. All right, we've seen Sugar Ray Leonard on top and Mayweather and Roy Jones and, Mike Tyson's and Holyfield, all these guys from America. Now it's time for new blood, and they build them up. What happened when Terrence Crawford fought Victor Postal? I was credential media, and I went to that fight. Crawford, American fighter, dogged the Ukrainian fighter, right? Usyk, he ain't fought nobody at the heavyweight division, but people could possibly have his number up there. He's a good fighter. Again, I'm not trying to, it's not about East or West. It's not about, the US versus other territories, but they make it about that. You see what I'm saying? People like Paulie Malignaggi saying that the black fighter, where? How is the black fighter like almost extinct or whatever he's talking about? It just doesn't make sense. You got Gervonta Davis, Errol Spence, right? You still got Wilder. He can bounce back in the third fight, despite what Paulie's saying, which I'll talk a little bit more about. So you please tell me how the takeover is like, like black and Mexican fighters or whatever are being ushered out. I just don't see it. I don't see that logic. So I think it's deeper than Paulie, what he's saying. He's trying to make it sound like he's always been favorable and fair to Wilder, but I don't agree. Like, you look at again, it's not just the Wilder Fury fight, right? It's also the Wilder Fury first fight. how you display the information. You're trying to almost brainwash the fans that your theory or thought process that it was a robbery is so egregious. Listen, if you really watch that fight back, I've already went over this. Wilder and Fury, the first 4, maybe 5 rounds, that was not all Fury. Simply put, it was not all Fury. He did not win all those rounds. There were people who gave Fury the first 7 rounds, the first 8 rounds, right? But if you look at CompuBox numbers and the harder shots, especially in round 2, Wilder landed more and he landed the harder shots. Fury, meanwhile, was doing a bunch of herky-jerky, feinting and moving. You're not scoring. You weren't making Wilder. You were working into your game plan, so it's not like you were making him miss like crazy or nothing like that in round 2. You were trying to stay safe to see what he was coming with, and you were feinting and, you know, stuff like that. But Fury was not offensive like that. You know, he was just feinting and moving, upper body movement, that, you know, Tourette's looking feints and stuff. So how did boxing media, old media, and Paulie Malignaggi and all these people give Fury all of the first 8 rounds and convince the people, or try to convince the people, that it was an egregious robbery? How did you give Tyson Fury, look it up, how did you give Tyson Fury round 2 when he was outlanded, and we know throughout the fight he did not land all of the harder shots because he is not the bigger puncher, you know, especially in the first fight, right? It just don't make sense, yo. And y'all know it. And this whole Paulie Malignaggi theory, I don't always rely on CompuBox as, you know, sometimes it's a guide. You look at CompuBox, it's not 100%. Sometimes CompuBox, you see the end stats and results like Floyd fights, and it's dead on, and it symbolizes what you just watched. You're like, okay, Floyd, he has a 56% of his shots were landing. Okay, that's accurate. Floyd's mad accurate. Sometimes it looks a little rough, but I think this fight was a good illustration of CompuBox being on point. People like Paulie Malignaggi tried so hard and vehemently to let people know how Fury was egregiously robbed, but they can't answer those questions like the second round. How did you give Fury the second round for feinting and Wilder was outlanding Fury, you know? Or by the fight's end, per the CompuBox, Wilder knocked Fury down 2 times. That's very easy to score. Very easy. Fury had no knockdowns. That's very easy to score too. He doesn't get more than 1 point for his rounds. Like he's getting 10-9 rounds. The rounds you gave him to win. Wilder, he doubled up in those singular rounds in a 12-round scoring fight. Like I've said from day 1, and I was there live, he just doubled up just by getting a knockdown because he clearly won the round. Plus he had basically an additional point for the knockdown. So all things considered, how did Fury dog him and dominate it? You can't look at boxing as it's a 12-round fight, but there's little things, nuanced things that can happen in the round to the point where it's scored even more in your favor, i.e. a point deduction for the ref, you know, i.e. knockdown or knockdowns. So it's not as simple as just looking at, oh, Fury won more rounds, because you have to look independently, case by case, round by round, each singular round, to see if there are any point deductions, to see if there are points taken away for low blows or whatever, and to see if there were any knockdowns created or any other reason. You know, person spits their mouthpiece out and gets a point reduced or deducted for constantly spitting their mouthpiece out. So it's not just a matter of, oh, I gave Fury more rounds in this case when Wilder had 2 pivotal knockdowns. Second of all, it wasn't a master class like Paulie Malignaggi and other people are making it out to be. Second fight, that's different. You know, Fury did his thing, whatever. First fight, this is what he's talking about, so that's what I'm talking about. First fight, you don't have a masterclass performance and then get knocked into the twilight zone in the 12th round and knocked down. If you were in such control over the fight, then why'd you get knocked down twice when you were supposed to have the bull by the horns and a firm grip? That goes to show you were not in control. Like if I'm driving and I say I have control of the wheel, but then the car swerves over 2 lanes and goes onto the soft shoulder, then clearly I wasn't in control of the car, right? because if I have a firm grip on the wheel, then I wouldn't have slid over 2 lanes to the right in a treacherous situation doing freeway speeds if I was in total control of the car. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't make sense. The first fight was absolutely not a masterclass, which is why Tyson Fury didn't do an immediate rematch, which is why Tyson Fury came up with other excuses in terms of saying, oh, my weight, it was my first fight back, which is a lie. He didn't have his first fight back. He had 2 tune-ups, Francisco Pianeta and Safiri. So Fury had time to acclimate and drop the weight down. And I don't care anyway, because at the end of the day, if he chooses to do coke and gain 150 extra pounds and then have to lose it, why would you have sympathy for me as a professional athlete? And these are the decisions you're making. Yeah, sure, we all go through stuff. I put myself in predicaments too. Get yourself in debt, or get yourself in trouble with the law, or whatever situation. But guess what? If you manifested and created those situations, then why would you expect people to feel sorry for you for stuff that was within your realm of control? So I'm not giving Tyson Fury brownie points for losing the weight. I mean, that's what you was never supposed to let your weight get to that caliber after beating Klitschko. You the top of the mountain, especially at that point, because Wilder hadn't fought Luis Ortiz or Fury or anything. Joshua hadn't fought Klitschko yet. So you were clearly at the top of the division. That was just a poor decision making and choice from Fury. The other thing that makes me believe that Paulie's definitely biased in this situation, he's saying that no one in the heavyweight division can beat him. Styles make fights. I think there's other great fights. Dillian White could be a good fight because he's different. His attack is different than Wilder. Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce winner, that's a great fight. Joshua's a great fight. So this is all conjecture from Paulie on who he feels will win. The other thing is, a lot of people are sleeping on Wilder. He's saying Wilder can never win. Wilder has singular knockout power. If he gets off first and lands something on Fury's chin, he wins. Period. It just so happens Fury had a good game plan or whatever. You also have glove gate and different things you have to analyze. But beyond all that, Fury, got the drop on him. But now, why would Wilder go into a trilogy fight knowing Fury did something that nobody had really even seen him do, which is bully equal-sized threatening puncher. Now Wilder knows that this could be part of your game plan. There's only 2 real game plans for Fury: fight and box like he did in the first fight, or fight like he did in the second fight. So now I don't think Wilder, and this is not an excuse, this is my honest opinion, I don't think Wilder thought Fury would be able to do what he did in the second fight. He didn't think that Fury would even try it. Probably he was feeling himself, feeling his power, and that's boxing. So Fury said exactly what he was going to do, and Wilder probably thought it was going to be a ruse to say he's going to do all this stuff and then really fight a different way and box and move about, and he wasn't prepared for that. But there's no reason that Wilder and his team can't prepare for that when he's already showed you 2 different dynamics and wrinkles in his game. So now that this is a reality. He stopped you in the 7th round. So now he might bull rush you again. He might try to fight dirty. He might step on your toe. He might rabbit punch. Now you can prepare for that. So for people like Paulie Malignaggi to be an expert and say that it's impossible that Wilder wins because Fury has his number, I reject that. I think that's a falsehood. Wilder has the type of power. If he gets off first and he connects, he can win. He can't win fighting like he did the last fight, but he also says there were several things that went on in his camp, and we'll see if any of that's true. So the trilogy is still a great fight. I disagree with Paulie here. Let me know what you guys think. We unpack. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.